Welcome to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the place where you can learn how to create a dental practice and a business life that you love. Listen in with Dr. David Moffet as he interviews successful entrepreneurs and successful business people and successful dentists as they share their business successes, their stories, and their breakthrough ideas, sharing pearls of wisdom that you can take back to your practice and implement immediately so that you can have that great practice with more patients, higher profits, and less stress. This is the podcast where great dental practices meet with successful business processes. Thanks for tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the podcast where thought leaders, industry experts, and thriving practice owners reveal their very best tips, tools, and strategies that will help you grow your dental practice faster. Now, here's your host, Dr. David Moffet.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. David Moffet. I'm in Burrawang in New South Wales in Australia, which is 2 hours outside of Sydney, and I'm in my home. It is Tuesday afternoon, just coming up to 1 o'clock, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the studio Dr. Marie Gorczyca, who is an orthodontist, and she's at her home in Walnut Creek in California, which is on the east bay of San Francisco, for those who aren't geographically well educated in terms of Californian towns. I've been to San Francisco many times, started going in 1985. And as I was telling Anne-Marie, I've got a good friend who lives not far from her, who I met through golf. And he's not a dentist, and I'm in touch with him through social media a lot. In fact, Anne-Marie, I got caught with a connection one time. My plane had landed from the East Coast in San Francisco, but I couldn't get to the Qantas plane, and so I had a 24-hour stopover in San Francisco, and I just posted on social media, and my friend dropped everything and entertained me for the day on the Saturday, which was really nice. He said, "Hey, you can't believe you're sitting there in that hotel all day," and so gave me another tour of a few of the sights of San Francisco. But anyway, Marie Gorczyca, thank you for being a guest on the Ultimate Dental Podcast. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Great talking with you.
Now, we met and have spoken on Zoom or whatever it was back then, a long time ago, because I had just published my first book, and you had published your first, and you were in the process of getting your second book published, and you asked me for some feedback on that manuscript, which I was very honoured that you did, because you are a prolific writer on dental practice. Let's talk about it as management, really, because it's behind the scenes stuff that all dentists don't get an education in at university. They graduate with a certificate on how to repair teeth, but they have no idea on the subjects that you've educated on marketing, on customer service, on human resources. You've written 5 books, and I can see 2 of them on the section of it. I can see 3 of them on the section of your bookcase behind. But you've written 5 books, and you've got a 6th one to complete the sequence. You are as I mentioned before we turned the microphone on, you are the dental equivalent of J.K. Rowling. You are out there way ahead of anybody else. And I think that the knowledge that you've shared back with the profession, everybody when they graduate should get your what will soon be 6 books to read to fill in the gaps on what they missed out on dental education.
Well, thank you, David. I appreciate that so much. Well, let me tell you how it all came about. I studied at Harvard School of Dental Medicine during a time when we had a 5-year program. And the dental school was 4 years, but then we had a mandatory 5th year of research. And the opportunity came up for me to study at the Harvard School of Public Health in the Department of Health Management and Policy. And they actually had a grant that would pay me to do the program. So 4 students from my class went over to the School of Public Health for 1 year, where we studied management, healthcare management, before we received our dental degree. So when I graduated, I had my DMD, and then I had my master's in public health. And then I went on to do my orthodontic training, and I didn't really think much of that experience. But as it turns out, one of my classmates, by the name of Dr. Maureen Valley, she became the clinic director at UOP Dental School in the orthodontic department. And she was also a graduate of Harvard School of Dental Medicine, and she had also done the Master's in Public Health in the Department of Health Management and Policy. So my friend Maureen said to me, why don't we set up a course for the orthodontic residents? It will meet every Friday morning, and we will discuss orthodontic practice management. So I participated in that course for about 10 years, and I gave 6 lectures. My 6 lectures were marketing, leadership and teamwork, customer service, treatment coordination, human resource management, and management systems. And one day, one of the students, I still remember him fondly, came up to me and he said, "Oh, Dr. Gorczyca, can I have your notes for the marketing lecture?" And he was going to go back to North Carolina. His dad was an orthodontist. And I told him, well, I don't really give out my notes or my slides. Plus, you really wouldn't know how to interpret the slides. I just thought that day, why don't I just write the book? And then you'll have the book with the explanation of all the slides. And that was the first book. And that book came out in 2013. So that's really how it started, was back with that course. Eventually, my friend, Dr. Maureen Valley, she moved on into private practice and she left the university. And when she left, the course was canceled. So I had this mission that I wanted to get these books done. And I hope that it will help a lot of new dentists and new graduates and give them a foundation that they wouldn't otherwise have by having no resources, or maybe not easily accessible resources that they can use to look up a topic and get information.
Well, I agree with you that, and I've got on this screen beside me, the price of your books in Australian dollars on Amazon, and it's a very inexpensive education for the amount of detail and the amount of time that you've spent, and being an orthodontist, having a career as an orthodontist, that it's what you do. Orthodontics is what you do. It's not what you are. But you are very particular on making sure that angles are right and midlines are right and all that sort of stuff. So everything in your books is thorough, and this is for a starting point as to where any dentist should begin. If they want to learn, they should go to your books and buy them all, or at least buy the ones that they're interested in straight away, because it's an opportunity to enter a field of dentistry, which sadly a lot of dentists get to the end of their career and they still know nothing. about marketing systems, customer service, and they think that customer service isn't important in dentistry, and they think that HR isn't important in dentistry, but it is more and more.
Well, I believe that 50% of what a practice owner does is run their business. In addition to providing the services, you are running a business, and you need to understand that business. So I always say, I write the books I wish I had had. And one thing that was shocking to me after I graduated from that program at the Harvard School of Public Health, we had professors from Harvard Business School. And one thing that was shocking to me is that when we got out into private practice, I didn't find the same level of management expertise available in the dental community. And the reason for that is that being a small business, we can't hire Booz Allen to coach our small business. I mean, even some of the businesses that we could hire, their starting rate is $40,000 a year. And I think the average dental practitioner perhaps is not going to pay $40,000 a year to get a private coach like that. Whereas a big hospital could afford that price, or big multi-million-dollar businesses could afford that price. And so one thing I've tried to do in my books is I've tried to find the best of the best of the best resources beyond dentistry to pull fundamental principles of all business management, small business, big business, all business, into the dental office. And explain to people, for example, you take HR. Well, an average corporation has a full-time attorney and probably a full-time psychologist who works in the HR department. And yet we, as small business owners, are expected to abide by the same laws and the same standards of a Fortune 500 company, which has an HR department. So that is a very daunting task. And I realize that there is an opportunity there for more resources. I'm not saying my resources are by any means the best resources, but they're better than nothing. And I have done my research. I always try to read at least 60 very good references from which I can learn and incorporate good systems and principles into my books that dentists can use in their own business, in their own private practice.
Well, I think you've touched on what is I found in my career as a dentist and as a coach now, the primary difference between those who run a business, those who run a good business, and those who run a great business. And that is that those who run great businesses, those who run good businesses educate themselves on things that they are missing. Those who run a great business seek the answers of what can work in their business that maybe comes from outside of their industry. And you know, the classic example of this, Anne-Marie, was back in the day when Southwest Airline was flying and they had the worst turnaround time. Their planes were on the ground longer than any other planes. And so they didn't look at what other airlines were doing in turnaround. They looked at Formula One pit crews and said, how are the Formula One pit crews so fast. And they took the skills that they saw the Formula One pit crew doing and applied that to their airplanes, and all of a sudden Southwest Airlines planes were on the ground the least. And so it's looking for things out of left field that you can then use in dentistry, which helped me make my practice different from other dental practices. Because again, Dan Kennedy, who you know, used to say that if he was going to set up a business, he'd just go into the town, look at what everybody else is doing, and then just do the opposite, because they're all doing something that they think is working because everybody else is doing it, but it's not. And so sometimes the opposite is blatantly obvious, and that's where you get your Ubers, you get your Amazons come from being disruptors to the traditional way of doing business. And so,
well, let's talk about that airline model for a minute.
Sure.
Because in my last book, One Team, One Score, Leadership and Teamwork for Successful Dental Practice, I mention that in the study of organizational behavior, the airline industry is cited as being number one in collaborative organizational behavior. And let me explain how that works. Here you have a group of people, the pilots, the stewardesses. They come together for the very first time on your flight. They've never worked together before. They've never met each other before. They get on the plane about 5 or 10 minutes ahead of time. The pilot introduces himself. He says, "This is what we're going to do today. Is everyone ready?" Everyone comes dressed appropriately. Everyone knows the rules of the games. Everyone knows what is appropriate language. Everyone knows their job. And your flight goes smooth, right? And why is that? It's because they have the checklist. It's because they have the employee manual. They've probably taken a test and probably had to pass a test before they got their job. So why can't it be that way in your dental practice? Why can't you have a team handbook where all the rules are written down? You will wear this uniform. No nose rings, no tattoos showing, appropriate language, show up early, don't leave until all the patients are gone. And before you even hire someone or they've worked a single hour in your office, have them sit down and spend an hour reading the team handbook. Then before they even start work, say, is there anything there you don't understand? Is there anything I need to explain to you? No, I understand. And then let them get to work. You know, if you just spend a little time on that onboarding process, you're going to save yourself a lot of headaches of, tidying up the loose ends. So let's use that as an example. Let's use the airline industry as an example of organizational excellence.
It's a great example because the airline industry is like any big industry. There are certain things that need to be done for the plane to fly and for the plane to arrive on time and for people to enjoy their flight. But there's a difference between one airline company and another airline company and how they create that difference and what they do. And I always used to marvel flying American Airlines in the United States and then Qantas back here. They were, partners in one world. But the service that I got in American Airlines, in the front end of the plane, where the seats are more comfortable, and you need comfortable seats when you're flying that distance. But what got me with American Airlines was, and when you know this, it's a small the front of the plane is a small cabin. They only are carrying a certain number of meals. But American Airlines would work out who was having which meal before the plane took off. And they would go round. Whereas I've been on a Qantas plane where it's 40 minutes in the air and then they get to you and you're in the one corner, either back or the front, just depends. And they've run out of your choice of meal. Whereas on American, they've worked out how many they've got. And when they run out, a number of times they've got to me, they said, we've run out of it, because I don't eat birds and I don't eat cows, but I eat fish. And they said, we've run out of the fish. And the person behind me goes, that's okay. I can swap with you. But Qantas doesn't work that out. They just say, bad luck, you've run out. And the other people have actually got theirs, and it's like, why can't they just do what American does and just work it out beforehand? The darn plane's on the tarmac for a little while before it takes off. They can be doing that sort of stuff. But they also used to, the other thing that American Airlines used to do would be they'd pause the boarding to serve the front of the plane a pre-flight beverage. I'm sorry, I'm just serving this person. And so you get this privilege for being a high, paying a higher price. And so you say, I'm going to stay with them because they look after me. Whereas if you feel like you're paying a higher price and you're not getting any difference to the people at the back, then you go, well, I'm not being made special. I'm being taken advantage of. So your principles there are great. But I also like the thing that you said about the manual. My daughter, and big organisations get this because they have the ability. They're just always recruiting and training for when they need to replace people. Whereas in a dental practice, we can't afford to be running that recruitment and training for the occasion where somebody leaves.
But we can keep resumes on file.
Mm.
So when you do hire a new team member, let's say you get 10 resumes, and let's say you narrow it down to 5. And let's say you interview 5 people, and let's say you invite 2 for a working interview, and then you narrow it down to 1. You, of course, call references. Don't ever hire someone without calling the past reference. Would you rehire? And the person passes, you hire them. Well, keep the number 2 person on board and say, when we have another opening, we'll give you a call. If you found that person was acceptable, but candidate number 2 or candidate number 3, if you thought they were acceptable, keep those resumes so that when there is an opening, you could still call them.
And why not? Exactly. And even when you let them know that they haven't been successful, let them know that it was a difficult decision. But so many dentists never even contact someone. I remember when I was still at university, I wrote to dentists in my area. Only one dentist actually took the time to write back to me and says, I haven't got anything, but good luck. I still remember his name. 45 years on, I still remember his name. I still remember where that practice was at that time, even though he's moved on from there. And I think what a nice thing to do, to do that. And to, just, again, good luck with your role in dentistry. But it is tough. The trouble is that because most dental offices are small one-man operations, more than any, one-man operations make up more than 50% of dental practices. So therefore, there's this shortage of staff. When somebody leaves, you've got to replace quickly because you haven't got people to fill in while you're doing the hiring process. And so you end up with somebody who's got a pulse answering the phone, or somebody who's got a pulse mixing stuff and all sorts of things. And imagine how the patients feel, Anne-Marie, in a general practice where, excuse me, the dental assistant, she's just learning on you.
Yeah, it's very tempting when you lose a team member. Well, first of all, if and when you lose a team member, you hope that they'll give you 2 weeks notice, okay, if they are moving on to a different job or a different location or whatever. But if it's a situation where you must let someone go, or let's say someone just doesn't show up for work. So you have to let them go. Slow yourself down and give it at least 2 weeks. Don't rush into a situation where you feel you have to hire the first person who comes along. Give it time to get the resumes, go through the resumes. I always like to look at how long did they stay at their last job. And I actually figure out, like, well, how many jobs have they had and how long did they stay at each job? And whoever has the highest average, I would interview that person first, because chances are if they stayed at another job for 5 years, they'll stay at your job for 5 years. But if you get a resume and it's like 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, well, that's a job hopper. And you're not going to be any different than any of those last 4 dentists. Or there's something wrong there. Maybe the person doesn't get along with people, or maybe there's a bad habit of absenteeism, something like that. So I would recommend that you take your time, you interview multiple people, even if you have someone you really like. Still take the time to interview the other qualified candidates. Do a working interview. Make sure they fit in with the team. Take time to ask the team, what do you think? Because if the team doesn't mesh with the person, or for some reason doesn't like the person, that's not going to work out. You're in such tight quarters in a dental office, working so closely together. Everyone has to get along, and they have to be able to communicate well with each other. So it's really important to ask the team, what do they think? And then I would even have them come back for a second working interview just to be sure. And then make your offer. And when you make your offer. It's not a negotiation. You make your offer, make your best offer, and give them 24 hours to respond.
I think that's an important thing in 2025 that I'm seeing, is that too many dentists are forgetting that they're in charge, it's their business, and they're negotiating. People are turning up for a job to negotiate what they want to do. I only want to work these 3 days, and again, I try and get all my clients to employ their staff on a full-time basis, because even 2 people job sharing, you've got to explain things twice. And
Right.
those 2 people don't correspond with each other, first half of the week, second half of the week, and things get, wrong because of too many times of having to explain. So the less moving parts in HR, the better. But it's hard because some dentists like to work more than 4 days a week, have 5 and 6 day offices. It's difficult. It's difficult, and more now with COVID, people, dentistry is not that appealing because you can't do dentistry from home. But some people want to work from home. In other industries, even when they're being called back to the office. We were talking to someone the other day. Their son was in HR, and he said, "No, I want to." He was an accountant. He wanted to work 2 days a week from home. He said, "This will be a deal breaker. I'll leave." And so the firm said, "All right, you can." He was obviously valued as such. Emery, you've written 6 books, and we've been talking about the HR side. Which was your favourite book to write?
Well, I think the most impactful book is the Take Action book on treatment coordination. And that was the only book during which time I was working with Fortune Management. And it turned out that I had a patient Her name was Amy Nevins, and she had been a Patterson dental rep. And I had met her at a Patterson dental meeting, and she needed help with her orthodontics. Her bite was kind of messed up, and she was an interdisciplinary case where she needed some restorative treatment to make her anterior incisors the correct size, and she needed some gingivectomy, that sort of thing. I probably shouldn't be discussing her treatment on a podcast. I don't think she'll mind. But anyway, her orthodontic treatment really changed her life. I mean, she's got a beautiful, beautiful smile now. And she actually, I guess, got inspired and wanted to become a dental coach. And I was her very first client. She told me she was going to be a dental coach, and I needed a little help at the office. She knew my team. She was my patient. So I worked with her for 10 months. And we focused on treatment coordination because I was writing the book at that time. And all my career, I'd always had a treatment coordinator, and I'd always been working with my treatment coordinator, always asking her, call the patients, please call the patients, please schedule the patients. And I was in a mastermind with Amy, and we read this book, Message to Garcia. Have you read that book?
No, I haven't.
It's an excellent book. And it's really about self-actualization. And at that mastermind, the light bulb went off in my head that I had been dissatisfied with the patient follow-up on the pending list for almost my whole career. And I thought, well, why don't I just call the patients myself? Let's just try it. So I go to my treatment coordinator with Amy and say, print out the pending list. Let me just have the list. Okay. I had 907 patients on my pending list, some going back 10 years. Okay. And I decided I'm just going to call every single one of them myself and ask them if they want to get started. So the first time I called the list, it took me about 3 months to call 907 patients. I started an Invisalign case where the dad of one of my patients had come for his exam 9 years earlier. And the patient was a physician. And I called him. I said, would you like to get started with your Invisalign? And he said, yes, I would. So he came in, he got his records done. And I said to him, why didn't you get started sooner? And he said, no one ever called me. So another patient was a surgery case, an orthodontic surgery case. And she had come in as a teenager, and her parents maybe didn't have the money. Now she was about 25 years old. She had come for her exam 5 years earlier, I believe, and she started with her orthodontic surgery. And when I called her, she got her braces on. We started her treatment. She said, Dr. Gorczyca, thank you for not giving up on me. And so I learned from that experience that a lot of patients were falling through the crack. So I changed my treatment coordination protocol with that experience. And now I still have treatment coordinators. I have 2 treatment coordinators, one who speaks Spanish, one who doesn't. And when we do the new patient exam, if they don't sign up that day, then we call them back 2 days later. And then the treatment coordinator calls back 2 days later. If they don't schedule 2 days later, we call back again 2 weeks later. But if they don't schedule that first month, then I take over the pending list and I make the monthly calls. And I'm very, very happy with that system because number one, I find that I get a yes or a no answer. If there's a roadblock, I can find out what's the roadblock. Is it the down payment? Is it the monthly payment? Or is it the treatment itself? And perhaps I can take that roadblock out of the way or work it out for the patient. And I'm happy to report now my pending list after doing this for about, 7 years maybe. I've got 22 patients on the list. So it's very easy for me to call 22 patients every month. It takes me about an hour. And I know that that's done 100%. So I'm very happy with that system. And I would advise every dentist and every orthodontist, it's great to have a treatment coordinator. It's great to have help. But I do think if you take matters into your own hands, you'll be very happy with the results. And I sort of got this idea from my husband because, as you know, my husband was an orthopedic surgeon. He was a cancer surgeon. And he would call his patients on Saturdays. And I'd be home and I'd hear him making the phone calls and he'd say, Mrs. Smith, Mr. Jones, I got your lab results back. This is what they are. We need to schedule you as soon as possible. And I said to myself, well, why can he do that? Why can't I call my own patients? Why was it the norm that you must have a treatment coordinator do it, that the doctor can't just directly do it? And I think when it comes to customer service, like you always talk about, speaking to the patient directly is very powerful. And they're not going to blow off the doctor. They're either going to tell you yes, or they're going to tell you no, or they're going to tell you why.
I think you've because a couple of things going through my head there. With your husband, he's saving lives. The cancer can kill people, and so they need to act.
Right.
Dentistry and orthodontics, it's not life-threatening as much as we think that it's important. Well, it is now. We've got the oral systemic link and oral cancer. But people keep putting things off, and the dental profession's not trained at dental school to create urgency as to why.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say, is have a sense of urgency. Tell the patient, this is not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. Explain that to them and say, this is the way it looks now, but with your bite the way it is, 10 years from now, your teeth may be worn down. I think it's good to create a little sense of urgency because dentistry matters and things will get worse. I love the phrase of Leanne Brady, who always speaks about occlusion. She'll say, malocclusion is a occlusal disease. It's a occlusal disease. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. Your teeth are going to get more crooked. Your bite is not going to get better. It's going to get more crowded.
The other thing, which one of my patients, as an adult, and I sent her off for orthodontic treatment, or did she end up at an orthodontist because of periodontal? She had periodontal disease because of crooked lower anteriors. And so she went into braces and people said, you're doing this for cosmetic reasons. She said, no, I'm doing it to save my teeth. So straight teeth are self-cleansing. Crooked teeth work in the opposite. There's more gum disease as a result of crooked teeth. And there's more black triangle disease in people who've had later in life orthodontic work because the bones the bone between the teeth is malformed or unformed because of the rotation of the teeth. So that bone is,
And
yeah,
you can have traumatic occlusion leading
yes.
to mobility.
Oh, of course you can.
Yeah. So
I'm,
so
I'm, I'm,
anyway, I think that in terms of what book could be most impactful for you in your office, I would say the Take Action book is the most impactful. And it talks not only about conversion rate, it also talks about accounts receivable, how to collect from patients that have overdue payments. There's a lot that goes into treatment coordination. It isn't just starting the case, it's also collecting for the case, finishing the case on time. There's a lot that goes into treatment coordination.
I think I agree with you. It is very important because ultimately, Anne-Marie, the more dentistry that dentists do, orthodontists, dentists do, the more financially stable their practice is, and they get to their financial goals quicker. There is a perception by the public and even by the dental profession that they make a good living, so they don't need to concentrate on the wastage and the overspending and the underdiagnosis and under treating. And so they say, well, I'm making a good money anyway. But you know, if you could get to, let's pull a figure. If you could get to $5 million in the bank in 20 years instead of in 30 years, are you going to work harder at it in 20 years so that you get that extra 10 years of leisure? Of course you are. And so take it away from money and then talk to patients. And this is what I love. I don't know if it applies in orthodontics as much, but restoratively, if I asked as a dentist, do you want me to do this procedure in 4 hours or in 2 hours? They're all going to say 2 hours, and they never say, is it cheaper in 2 hours? They just want to get in and out and get it finished. And so why aren't people talking about that in terms of how long it takes them to do things?
And why don't you say to your patient, for your convenience, let's get started now. For your convenience, let's get started now. Even if you just do the x-rays, you've started, right? Even if the patient just signs the contract, they've started. Do whatever you can to start the patient now.
You're right. The longest journey begins with the first step. So let's get that first step happening.
Yeah.
This is it.
Another thing with treatment coordination, before you spend $1 on marketing, pull up your missed exams list and call every single person on your missed exam list. All of those people should be rescheduled. And they will reschedule. Something happened that day. They either got caught up at work, or they forgot, or they had to pick up their kid, or maybe they couldn't even find your office. And they will come back and they will complete their exam. But why look for new patients when you already have patients in your computer system with their phone numbers that all you need to do is call them and they'll reschedule in your practice? That missed exam list should be zero. It should have 0 names on it.
Take that one step further, Anne-Marie, and this is something that my wife Jane trains. When somebody rings the practice and you get their name and their phone number, but they don't schedule, they haven't gone somewhere else. Most of the time, something's got in the way. Like you said, they had to pick up their child. They just got busy, and we were ringing them like a week later, a few days later, and they go, "Oh, thanks for ringing. I meant to ring you back." And so they've already rung once. They've done their homework on you. They like you, but something just got in the way. How often do you think, I didn't come into this room for that. I got distracted. What did I come in? What was I doing? What was my primary purpose? And so,
Yeah.
we've already done that homework. In this back when you and I graduated, the advertising and marketing for dentistry was illegal. So you were just judged by how your name sounded, or where your position in the alphabet in the yellow pages. Now, all that research is able to be done, and so it's an incoming phone call to your office is already somebody who wants to buy, because nobody. Well, maybe in orthodontics it might be slightly different, but nobody rings a dentist for fun. They ring a dentist because they're taking that step. They've got the parachute on. They're ready to go with you. So,
and then another part of treatment coordination,
yes.
Which you talk about in your book, which I absolutely loved your book. When you do a procedure, you complete a restorative procedure, orthodontic treatment, whatever it is, and the patient is thrilled, give them something so that they can refer more patients to your practice. So in my office, if someone finishes their orthodontic treatment, I give them 2 little gift cards, share a smile cards. That's what I call them, share a smile. And I say, please give these to your family or friends or coworkers, and thank you for referring your family and friends. And that's another part of treatment coordination. It's like a full circle. You complete the treatment. Now, how are you going to replace that patient or get that patient to refer more patients?
I love that, because that's really, really important, especially in orthodontic practices, because then if you've done a great job, they're not coming back for more orthodontic work.
Right.
Now, you celebrate your patients when they get their braces off, don't you? What do you do in your office for those patients? I know you take photos and put those on social media. Do you have a bell that they ring?
Well, I do have a gong.
There you go.
But we try to make it a bit of an event.
Yes.
That we schedule all the debonds on the same day, because we try to make it a little bit of a party, and we like all the people getting their braces off to kind of be together and celebrate together. We do take their pictures. We try to make a video. The kids are really into TikTok. I'm not into TikTok, but they're into TikTok. So that's something new that we're trying out. We give them a little mug with candy in it, because supposedly they haven't eaten candy for 2 years. So this is their reward. And then we ask them for a Google review. We have a little Google thing. And we give them the 2 gift cards. And we try to make it a very, very fun day, the day they get their braces off. And it should be. They've been on a long journey, and we're very grateful for them.
Yeah, they've been with you a long time, and I love that. I know that the bell is really something that in the cancer ward, especially for children or anybody who's beaten cancer. It's a celebration of, I'm a winner, and I guess it's the same, because I remember with the orthodontic cases that I did, so when the patient would come back the next day or a few days later for their retainers, they would say, "Oh, my teeth feel slimy because I haven't got the braces on." So there's actually a downside to getting the braces off. So again, celebrate that. This is your day of freedom. And now you've got this spectacular result. I love it. I love it. But I think the thing about customer service, having written a customer service book myself, and you have, but then looking at the other books that you've written, these are all continuous education. There's not like, I've done that, I can put that book on the shelf, it's over. It's the start of a journey. And I always say that if you've been touched with the customer service wand, you just can't undo that. You have customer service radar, you have customer service eyes, and you're looking for these things to use in your business, but also in other businesses as to where people are really good at things and where their businesses are lacking. And you start comparing one restaurant to another, one bookstore to another, one coffee shop to another.
Yes. Well, you can't overestimate the human touch. And the highest form of customer service is personalized attention. When you know that person so personally that you know what they like, you know what they don't like, you know their family, you know what they do or what they do in their free time. And people are craving personalized attention,
Are you
especially in
seeing?
our age of the cell phone, and people are craving individualized attention.
Yeah, are you seeing patients now that are the children of patients that you've treated?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I do have the children. And that's an interesting marketing thing as well. um, I was at an orthodontic meeting for the Angle Society, and I heard a very good orthodontist speak. I don't want to mispronounce his name, but he was a Japanese orthodontist from Loma Linda University, a professor. And he showed a remarkable talk where he had his American Board of Orthodontic Patients, and then he showed them 10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later, to show that their occlusion had been stable for 30 years. And I thought that day, what a great idea. I'm going to send postcards out to my 10-year patients, because I had been in practice maybe 10 years at that time. I'm going to send postcards out to my 10-year patients. And the postcard is very simple. It just says on the front, have you been wearing your retainer? Your orthodontist cares. Please call our office for a follow-up retainer exam. Okay. So my 10-year patients started coming back, but now they were like 27 years old, 30 years old, and they were bringing their kids, and their kids were like 7 years old. I thought, oh my goodness. So that's a system that I have kept in place now. Every year, I probably send out about 400 postcards to patients that have been out of treatment for 10 years. Because I know either they'll come back and they'll need a new retainer because their retainer is grungy after 10 years,
oh yeah,
if they still have their retainer, or heaven forbid, they need a little tune up because they haven't worn their retainer perhaps, or maybe they don't even live there anymore and the mom or dad will come in for treatment, or they'll bring their child. And it's a nice little practice builder to send out postcards like that. I met with a pediatric dentist last week. He had just bought a very long-standing pediatric practice. And we were talking about marketing. And I said, you know what? If I were you, I would go through my database. I would send either an email or a postcard to every single person in your database, because even if the patient is now 30 years old, they have a child they can bring into your pediatric practice. And he said, I think that's a pretty good idea. I'm going to do that.
well, there's somebody who, yeah, hopefully, you said he's a new owner of the practice.
Yes,
So
he bought an existing practice
yeah,
that's been around for a long time. It went from the father to the son, and then the son sold it to this new pediatric dentist. So he must have a very big database.
oh, there's no harm in sending emails. A minimal cost to send an email
Right.
to the database, and
Yes.
a postcard. Again, if it's good, it'll be something that somebody, we know people sort the contents of their mailbox over the trash. But if it's something, oh, I'll hang on to that. I'll read that later. That's or it's just got to be sticky, and it'll work. And it works because nobody else is sending dental stuff in the mail anymore. So yeah, good idea. Again, what you're saying here is that these are things that have worked before the internet. An email not, but a postcard, but the principle is the same. It's just the medium is different, but it's about being in contact with people and
Right.
people that, hey, we haven't seen you for a while. Come on in because we want to make sure that everything's going okay. I think that's a great idea. And
Yeah.
also it allows him to introduce himself as the new owner of the office.
And right now, Mother's Day is coming up in May.
Yes.
You could send something out to mothers. Mothers come in for a free orthodontic exam, or come learn about Invisalign, or come learn about teeth whitening, and just send it to everybody in your database. Like you said, an email costs you nothing.
Well, it does.
Just the time it takes you to put it in the email.
Put it in put it in the system and get your CRM to just send it. No, it's a great idea. When is your 6th book due out, Anne-Marie?
Well, I've got the manuscript right here sitting on my desk. I'd like to have it out by the end of the year. I'd like to get it out by December. And I keep telling myself, today I'm going to send it to the editor. And I keep procrastinating because I just want to read through it one more time. But as you might recall when you wrote your book, there is a time when you have to sing Let It Go. And I'm just about to sing Let It Go. Because there comes a time where you just can't look at it anymore. You've said what you've had to say, and you just have to let it go.
Yes. Are you looking to add more stuff, or are you looking to refine the...
No, I just want to refine it a little bit. And I do, as you know, you were just so wonderful with the customer service book. For every book, I send the manuscript out to 10 people, and I'm hoping to get an endorsement. And most of the 10 people don't even give me any feedback whatsoever. And then I contact them again and say, do you think you could write me an endorsement? And some of them do, and some of them don't. With every book, there is one person who really cares, and you were that person for the customer service book. You actually read the manuscript, and you gave me some very good ideas. So I really want to thank you for that, because all feedback is very, very useful. And there aren't many people to take the time to do something like that. So I'm very appreciative to you for that.
Well, I'm always of the belief that the more people who are talking the subject, the better the subject is for the audience. And you took the time to write the book. I was flattered that you sought my opinion, and the least I could do was read it for the amount of time that you spent in writing it. And it is a very, it's a labor of love writing a book for anybody, but your book was a very detailed document in terms of customer service. And, kudos to you for diving into that, because customer service is the unspoken chapter of dentistry that nobody wants to talk about. You talked about not doing any marketing until you've got your systems in place and your team in place. That's primarily what every business needs to do. But yet most businesses say, just let's get more patients. I just need more new patients, but they're answering the phones badly. They're bad with their customer service when they're in their office. And they wonder, we just need more, if you churn more. But the churn is painful. It's expensive, and it's painful, and it's demoralizing. Whereas you've got to work out what's your comfortable balance in dentistry to replace, different for orthodontics, but in dentistry, to replace patients who move away or die. Other than that, they should stay with you forever. And or the ones who you've completed their treatment and they become hygiene patients and they are so good at maintaining that. But it's only a small number.
I'm glad you mentioned that, David, because I'm an orthodontist, and at every appointment, we mark the hygiene. Is it excellent? Is it very good? If it's fair or if it's poor, I have an obligation to send the patient back to the general dentist for an exam and a cleaning. And I'm surprised how many general dentists do not keep up on scheduling the 6-month cleanings. I just had one last week. I have a patient. It's a very difficult case. She has 2 impacted maxillary canines, and they've been exposed. They've got the little chains hooked onto the wire, and her hygiene was not good. Okay. So I gave her the referral for the cleaning. I said, you need to go for the cleaning. I'm leaving the wire out. And then I got a call from the dental office that she hadn't been back for a cleaning in like 2 years. And I was surprised. I'm like, well, whose responsibility is that? It's the office's responsibility to call their patients and schedule the cleaning, make sure their patients are showing up. So I do think that's another leak in the dental practice, in the general dental practice, just keeping the patients that you have scheduled. I have the same thing in my practice. Once a month, I always run the list, active patients with no appointment. And we call every one of those active patients with no appointment. Where are you? Why did you not reschedule? I mean, my patients have braces on, so I want to complete their treatment in a timely manner, but they have to show up.
Yeah.
They have to be scheduled and show up. They might have canceled and not rescheduled, and patients can get lost like that.
Don't they understand with orthodontics that every time they reschedule, it lengthens the time that they're in treatment, and so it's longer till they get their braces off? I'd always be there for my orthodontic treatment. When I had my teeth done as an adult with fixed braces, and I just couldn't wait to get them off. I wanted to make sure that they were good. It's just one of those things, but still. Some people, their priorities are different. One of the periodontists I worked with said that he found that, and you might find this with your patients, that sometimes the patients, he said it's like, there's a saying that people look like their pets, or their pets look like them, after their dogs look like them. He said he found that the patients that were referred by dentists, the dedicated patients came from dedicated dentists, and the less dedicated patients came from less dedicated dentists. Do you find that sometimes?
That's an interesting thought. I haven't thought about that. I think that dedicated dentists send more patients. I think that they're the best referrers. I find that the top referring offices, those are well-managed offices. They're tight offices. And on that subject, I think the team meeting, a weekly team meeting, helps to make your office be a very well-run office. If you can have a weekly team meeting and run the critical reports. So, for example, active patients without appointment, that is a report you can run every week and review at your team meeting. And you could put someone in charge of that to look at that report. How many people on that report? Is the number going up or down? And that's another report. Maybe you could get it to 0. Make sure all the active patients are scheduled.
I think, and we're running towards the end of our time today, Anne-Marie. I think that team meetings are very important. Just like going to the doctor, it's something that there are certain metrics that need to be taken each time to make sure that you are healthy. And practices that don't have huddles and don't have weekly team meetings and don't do retreats to educate and don't take their staff for education, those tend to be practices that in the end could have been performing better. It's like your car. You know, if you don't get your car serviced, if you don't get your car checked, it's not going to last as long as one that is well maintained. And so the business is usually the second biggest asset that a dentist owns, you know, apart from their home. Sometimes it's bigger. And so really the health of that business, it does need to be checked, and not just checked by yourself. You know, the phrase that a lawyer who defends himself in court has a fool for a client. Sometimes dentists who think that they know everything about the running of their practice, they know how to do the stuff, but they don't know the big picture. And so that's, again, I'm going to come back to it, and I think it's a good way to finish. That's, again, the reason why every dentist should own your 6 books. And no matter where they are in their career, whether they're first year out, still at dental school, or whether they're 10 years out, 20 years out, 30 years out, they can still learn from the principles that you have spent a lot of time preparing and putting into your books. Marie Gorczyca, you've done the dental profession worldwide a massive service in writing these 6 books, and I take my hat off to you. And like I said, there's nobody else in dentistry who's written as many good books about the things that are missing from a dental undergraduate education as you have. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, David. I appreciate that. And there's something in there for everyone. And we are all still learning on a daily basis. We are all still learning. So we can all learn from each other, and we can all share with each other, and it will make all of us better.
Now, Anne-Marie, if somebody wants your books, Amazon's the best place, of course. How can they get in touch with you if they'd like to speak with you personally? What's the best way?
They can call me at the office at 925-757-9000 in the United States.
757-9000 +1.
Or they can email me at amgortho@aol.com.
Easy.
Or they can find me on Facebook at my name.
Yes,
and that's where I found you, David. I saw the big yellow book, and the big yellow book was everywhere. It was in Paris. It was in London. I'm like, who is this person? And what is this book? I had to buy the book.
There you go.
And it's an excellent book.
Well, I must... The marketing of that book, I think, originally came from a dentist in Florida, Michael Barr, who photoshopped it into a picture of the Pope. And I thought, there's an idea. And then a patient of mine, I left him a book. He was staying in Sydney at his hotel, and he took a photo of it by the Harbour Bridge and by the Opera House. And I thought, there's the idea. So, again, what can I use, and then how can I promote it? But it
was excellently done. Excellently done.
Well, Anne-Marie, thank you very much again for being a very welcome guest on the Ultimate Dental Podcast. I really appreciate your time this evening.
Oh, thank you. I loved being with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to another inspiring episode of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you for being a part of our dental community and joining us each week on this incredible journey. If you found value in today's episode and you don't want to miss out on future episodes packed with expert insights and actionable strategies, here's how you can stay connected with us. Firstly, hit that subscribe button. Whether you're listening on your favorite podcast platform or watching on our website, subscribing ensures you'll never miss an episode. Secondly, share the love. If you know a fellow dentist or colleague who could benefit from the wisdom and knowledge that we share here, please share our podcast with them. Also, please share the podcast on your socials by simply clicking on the social icons wherever you view or listen to this podcast. Together, we can all do our bit to elevate the dental profession. And finally, stay engaged with us. We love hearing from you. Your questions, comments, and feedback fuel our mission to provide the best content for your professional growth, your personal growth, and for your practice growth. Remember, your journey to creating a dental practice and a business life that you love is our mission, and we're excited to be your trusted guide along the way. Thank you for being a part of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. Until next time, keep smiling, keep striving, and keep on tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast.